G'day folks. So today I'm going to show you how I go about painting my epic British line infantry. So I've gone ahead and undercoated these already, and I use this Dragon Red. I used the rattle can version and it didn't melt them, so that's good news. Now, there are a couple of guides out there already. So let me just start by saying I'm going to be using black grey to do all the black areas. So yeah, there's a couple of guides out there already. Stuart from Miniature Realms has got one, which is very good. So I'll put a link in the description below to his video. He tends to use a lot of contrast paints. So if you use contrast paints or you like using contrast, he will show you how to go about doing that, and then you tell you what colours are good to highlight contrasts. And also do all the feet. So you're doing the shakos and the feet on the front of these guys. And then the other video that I've seen painting these little dudes is by my good friend Nick, British Legion. Again, I'll put a link in the description below to his video, and he has a great method for doing these, and it's a lot quicker than the method I'm going to show you today. So if you want, you know, it is a good finish. They do look good, and it's quicker than mine. So on the backs, you want to paint the backpacks thusly. I tend to paint both sides first, because you don't, this time you have to be a little bit neat, because you don't want to get it all over the red. And then just fill that gap in like that. Obviously we're going to do the feet again, and the backs of the shakos, and also when you do the shakos, just paint the hair in, because then that with that painted as well. And then what we'll do when we paint the brown, we'll come back in and we'll turn some of them black hairs into brown hair, just give a bit of variety. So I'm going to crack on and do the rest of these in black grey. So next up, we're going to do a London grey, London grey, and we're going to do the trousers and greatcoat rolls for this, and we're also going to dry brush some of the black areas. And that's one of the reasons I use black grey, is because black can be a very tricky colour to highlight. So if you start off with black grey, when you put the ink on, it darkens it down very nicely, and also leaves like a bit of the black grey showing through, so it gives you an instant highlight. So try and be neat around the trousers, because you don't want to go over any of the white areas really. So all the trousers, and then on the backs, trying to be neat around the hair, we're going to do all the greatcoat rolls. So I tend to paint all the sides first. So one more, and then I'll go around the hair, tops of them like that, and just not getting the hair so the hair stays black. A bit more paint, and then just a little line across there. So we're going to do that with all of these, and the backs of the trousers. Don't forget them. Just be neat around there. There is one more little part that should be black grey, which is these bayonet scabbards just here, but I always go over them when I'm doing this stage, so I tend to leave them right to the end now. Right, let me crack on and do all of them. Also, just before I forget, don't forget these bits of the backpacks that show on the front, greatcoat rolls, sorry, that show on the fronts of the Mini, because they'll stand out later when you come to do the highlighting. And also, while we've got London grey out, we're going to do just a little bit of dry brushing. Is this one a bit dry yet? And we're just going to dry brush the shako, just the front of it, like so, just to give that like edge highlight. And then on the backs, we're going to do the shakos again, like so. And we can do all the backpacks and the ammo pouches. Just a subtle little dye brush, just to give everything that edge highlight. So I'm going to crack on do the other one. So the next one I'm going to use is Vallejo Light Grey. Now what we're going to do with this is we are going to just highlight the areas that are going to be white. Now you don't have to do this, you could leave it until you're ready just to paint the white on, but I always find I get a better coverage with white if I do this now. And what we're going to do is we're just going to drag the brush over these areas and it will just catch the raised areas, which is what we want, like so. Just be in the middle of that, it's okay. So yeah, we're just dragging this brush over the top of all your raised areas. Try not to get too much paint on your brush. And as I say, just drag it over them raised areas like that. And that will help when you come to painting the actual white on. Now the other thing we're going to do is going to do the hat cord. A little bit on the side there, and just messed that up completely, but don't worry if you mess that up, because you can just go in with some black grey and tidy it up. It's just really hard to do these little guys on camera. I'm very tempted to abandon this painting tutorial because the light's so bad. Right at the tops of them, because the bottom of these will be red, these plumes on the hats for the centre companies. The flank company, light company would be green, and the grenadier company would be all white. So obviously we're going to do them on the backs as well. And then the other thing I'm going to do on the backs is I'm just going to line in where I'm going to put the strapping. So all the way down there, and then down the back. Oh, I messed up. God damn it. So, and I'm going to do that on all of them. So the next colour I'm going to add is for the collars and cuffs. Now obviously this will depend very muchly on what regiment you're doing. I'm actually going to do these as guards, so the collars and cuffs on these will be blue. Now I'm going to paint in the collars as well, but I won't highlight these. It's just to give an impression of a blue collar. And when I put the wash on and paint the face in, it will tidy all this up so it won't look quite so messy. Like that. And also on the backs of them, don't forget there will be a couple of arms somewhere. There's one in there, look. Just want to put a little blobby on that. So, front and back, collars, cuffs. Okay, so the next colour I'm going to add is Vallejo Flat Earth, and this is going to be done for the muskets and the hair. Or I'm going to mix up the hair a little bit. Now, you can use any old brown really that you like, more woodeny colour, but I quite like this because once the wash goes over it, it darkens it right down. So what we're going to attempt to do here is we're going to paint the whole of this musket apart from the bayonet. Because it will just make it easier when you want to put the silver on afterwards, or I think it does. So paint all the way down that side like that, and the same on the other side of the musket. Can we see this? So just going up there, trying to avoid any areas you've already painted. And obviously on the back. So on the backs of these muskets would have had a white strap on them, but for the purposes of this models, I'm just going to ignore that. So I'm going to pick out any hair I want to be brown, which will mostly be the ones that haven't got too much London grey on. And that will just give the hair a bit of variety. So I'm going to crack on and do all the brown. So I've just looked back through the footage and I have to apologise. It's a little bit out of focus and the lighting's not great. So in my defense, I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how I paint these. So either forgive me, switch off, or whatever. Anyway, next 3 colours I'm going to put on: bread bags, skeleton bone, water bottles, which are a blue colour, so I use deep sky blue, and finally the water bottle strap, which is leather, so I use leather belt. So pick out all the bread bags, and I'm going to paint this one on the side here. There are a few bits on the front, which I'll try and show you. Not many, just a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and there. And then all the bits, water bottles on the back, water bottles, bread bags on the back. So one in there. And then the water bottles, so we'll just do sky blue. There's one there. And one there. Basically go around and pick out all the water bottles that you can find on the backs. And on the fronts there aren't any, it's just the ones on the side. And last but not least, we are going to get some leather belt, and we're going to paint the water bottle straps. So there and there. And then we're going to carry on and do that on all of them, and then we're going to get to the metallics. Almost forgot. Now we're just going to go with a little bit more black grey. We're just going to pick out these scabbards, and also we're going to touch up any of the mistakes that I've made on the hat cords and the backpacks where I've put the white stripes on and they're not worked out so good. And basically just do all them bits just before we put the metallics on. So last of the base coats now are the metallics. I'm going to use plate mail metal and old gold. So start off with the plate mail metal. And what we want to do with this is draw in the line for the bayonet. So it's just a dead straight line all the way up. Oops. All the way up there. And then the bayonet itself, like so. And then I'm also going to do the buttons. I do apologise if this isn't coming out so well. It's just this is actually the 4th time I've tried to film this, and I've had to start again every time because it's just not been fantastic, but I'm just doing it now. That's it, I've given up. And the gold. So for the gold, you want to do the shako plate. Ooh, little blob on there, on all of them. And the chest bit there. And I like to do the tops of the bayonets, where they're held onto the musket. So that's it, and then we'll be ready to give these a wash. So very lastly, I'm going to give them an all over wash, and I'm going to use strong tone ink, and into that I've mixed a tiny little bit of matte medium, so hopefully they won't end up shiny. And what we're going to do with this is we're not going to be too precious at all. We're just going to slap it all over everywhere on both sides of the mini. Like so. And then if you get any pooling right around there, just take it off with your brush, dip it on a bit of paper and just take it off. So we're going to carry on and wash the other one. I'll come back to you when these are dry. Almost forgot. So this is going to be slightly out of sequence from how you're seeing it on the video, but just before you start the white, get your collar and cuff colour back out, the Prussian blue that I used, or whatever colour regiment you're doing, and just paint in all the cuffs so that you can highlight them with white. So I'll just show you what I mean when I say highlight. I mean, what we're going to do is they had like white bits where the buttons go, so we're just going to put a couple of really thin lines on like that. Anyway, back to the normal video now. Okay, so everything is inked and dried now, and I tidied up all the mistakes that I made. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the white. So if you get to this stage and you've put the grey on already, if you haven't put the grey on, you'll probably have to do 2 coats of white, but if you put the grey on, you'll get away with just 1 coat, hopefully. There's no 2 ways about it. You're going to have to take your time over this. And what you're trying to do is dot in the white. Because we've done the grey earlier, it gives you a bit of a highlight straight away, or a low light I should say. So just take your time, follow all the lines. Oops, see, blobby. Now, you may have noticed as well that I've got some on, or this one on a white top and the other one on a red top. So the white top ones are going to be the front rank. So we're going to highlight these slightly differently to the rear rank. And I'll show you that when I'm done. So you've got to do the top of the hat cord as well. On the side, sorry, the feathers. Then you've got to do a little dot there, little dot underneath the side of the hat. You got 2 choices on the hat cord. You can do little dots all the way around, but that does take a long time, so I just prefer just paint it all in. Again, at this stage, if you do make a mistake right at the end with some black grey, just go back in and tidy all your mistakes up. And on the backs, on the front rank guys, all I do is the greatcoat roll white stripes. Oops. Like this, and then I only do 1 stripe down the back of this one. So just a white line down there, same on the other side down there, and then obviously we're going to do the plumes like so, and then when we do the red, we'll touch in the rest of the plumes. But yeah, that's all you need to. All the greatcoat rolls and just 1 stripe either side, because they're never going to get seen again. So I'm going to crack on do these, and I'll show you the difference between the front rank and the rear rank while I highlight. So these are the differences. So that's a front rank and that's a rear rank. So as you can see, only thing I've highlighted on the white on these is the edge guy, and then just all the tops of them. Didn't bother with all the bits in the middle, just left them grey. And on the backs, did all the white stripes on them, didn't do them on them. And the little mistakes I made, I'm going to go in and touch up with a little bit of black grey. Because I've done it this way, because when they're ranked up like that, all together on a base, you're not going to see all these lower bits, so it's just completely pointless highlighting them. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the faces. Now normally I'll do this right at the end, but I'm doing it now. So you can see that if you just did the white and the faces, you could get away with a perfectly acceptable tabletop standard. So we're just gonna paint in all the faces with a layer of highlight flesh. Now any really light flesh colour will do for this. maybe like an elf flesh or something. You just want something really light. Try to get it on camera. So I'm going to crack on and do them all. You may have noticed a couple more turned up, and these were from a failed attempt earlier to get this done. So right, let me get on with all the faces. So with all the faces done, I'm now going to put a wash over them, and I'm going to use contrast paint Guilliman flesh, but you can of course just use a flesh wash. Just make sure you water it down a little bit, otherwise it will just make it too dark. So we're just going to use this Guilliman flesh, and we're just going to basically paint over all the faces and all the hands thusly. So I'll get back to you when I've done that. So with that done and dried, you could just leave these like this and you would have a perfectly acceptable tabletop ready British uniform. But I'm going to take mine just one little step higher, and on the front rank only I'm going to highlight the faces, and it's just going to be both cheekbones, nose, cheekbone and the chin. And I'm only going to do that on the front rank, and I'll crack on to do all of them. So the next highlights I'm going to do leather belt on the water bottle strap across the chest. Oops. I'm going to do the skeleton bone for the bread bags, so the little bits on the front side. Won't do the backs on the front rank, only the backs on the rear rank. And same with the water bottles, just the side and the backs. I'm not going to show that on camera because I need to speed things up a bit. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight all the grey areas, and this time we're just going to go straight back over this grey with London grey, because the ink will have darkened it and it will just give you a nice little subtle highlight. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave a few areas where it's still dark. So just pick out certain areas and leave other bits dark. Don't forget these bits. And on the front rank, we're going to highlight the fronts of them. We're not going to bother with the backs except for the great coat rolls, which will get a highlight. Stripe along there, one down the middle, just like that. And then on the rear rank, peoples, completely ignore the front, and we're just going to highlight the backs of the trousers. And on the side dude, we'll just come around the front a little bit on his legs that are on the outside, but the rest of it is just going to get a bit of London grey like this. So I shall crack on and do all the rest of these now. Obviously we're going to have to highlight all of that as well because it's the rear rank. So I'll crack on and do the rest of these. So with that done, we're just going to highlight that again now. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some Vallejo light grey to your London grey, around 60-40 in favour of the light grey. And we're just going to pick out some of the raised areas. This will go on a bit light, but it will dry darker. Just pick out little bits and pieces, and it will just give that nice edge highlight, or that top highlight that will just make these guys pop. I mean, you could just leave it with a London grey if you wanted, but I found this just really brings out the detail more. Right, I'm going to crack on and do all of them. Oh, and also don't forget to do the great cut rolls. And obviously, as before, we're not highlighting the rear rank on the front, we're only highlighting them on the back. We don't highlight the backs of the front rank guys. Okay, with that done, we're not far off being finished, to be fair. So let me bring up one of the rear rank just so you can see the difference. And I think them highlights on there just make them pop, and they don't take very long to do. So next up, we're going to highlight the red. And we are starting off with Vallejo flat red. Now I'm only going to highlight the front guys. Oops. The rear guys will just get the final highlight because you don't really see much of it. So we're just going to put some flat red, all the raised areas. Not forgetting if you can get the top of the hat plume as well. Wait a minute, that's okay. So all the raised areas now on the front guys flat red. So again, you could leave them there if you wanted, but I'm going to add a highlight of Vallejo Scarlet to all them red areas. And while I'm doing the Scarlet as well, I will highlight the backs of the rear rank guys. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a couple of little touches of Scarlet on the sleeve like that. Just get a tiny bit on your brush. And then just pick out these areas, something like that. And there's a bit there, so we'll just put a dot of red on there. Top of the arm, bottom of the arm. And basically go along like that, just picking out certain areas with the Scarlet, just to make that red pop. So with that done, I think that putting that Scarlet on just really makes these pop. So that's the rear rank, and I haven't put the flat red on, so you could skip the flat red if you wanted, but I just think it just gives you that little bit more depth, and that's kind of what you want on the front ranks. So not much left to do now. All we're going to do for the metallic highlight on the front of these is to start off with, we're just going to do the silver, and we're just going to pick out all the buttons, and that is only silver we're going to highlight on these. And again, we're only going to do this on the front rank. And then we're going to do a tiny bit of gold highlighting. And we're just going to highlight the little chest plate. Let's give it a little dab. One. And that one, tiny little highlights. And then the shako plate, just the bottom half of it, we're going to highlight. And we'll do that just on the front rank guys. And that is these guys done. So front rank and rear rank. Double the number as I was doing the tutorial. Because of mistakes. So all that remains now is to get these all put in a regiment and based up. So I'm going to do that. And I'll show you the finished result. And here we have the completed regiment, or battalion I should say. These are the guards. There's your flank company with all white plumes. Your centre companies. I put a mounted officer in this battalion because I could. Your colour party. A couple more flank companies, and your light company with the green plumes. So these are all painted using that exact same method. And I think you get quite a nice little result at the end of it. And just taking the time just to do them extra little bits and pieces. You know, the extra highlight on the grey and the red. I think it just pays off in the end. It just gives you a much nicer result. So there we have it. That's how I paint my British infantry for these epic dudes. I hope this was helpful to someone. Sorry it's gone on so long. I did try and make it a bit shorter, but I just kept waffling. I've made, this is, as I say, this 4th time of trying to do this. And I don't really feel like doing it again, so this one's going to go through warts and all. There'll be a link in the description below to Nick British Legion's video and Stuart Miniature Elves videos if you want to check them out and see how they paint theirs. And as for me, finally, some stills at the end. I'm out of here.